It was a cold, quiet night on the edge of Outpost Theta 9. The air was thick with dust, and the red moon hung low in the sky. Daniel, a human living alone on this remote alien world, sat in his small home sipping hot tea. He had been here for 6 months, working as a repair tech for deep space equipment. He liked the silence, no wars, no crowds. Just peace. Until the knock. Tap. Tap, tap. Daniel froze. No one ever came here. His nearest neighbor was 2 miles away. The outpost wasn't even on most maps. He stood up slowly and looked at the door. Another knock, this time weaker. Slower. Tap. He opened the door and the world changed. A young alien woman stood there swaying. Her skin was pale blue. Her long silver hair stuck to her face, and her eyes looked like dying stars. She wore torn clothes and her body was shaking badly. Then she collapsed. Hey! Hey! Daniel rushed forward, catching her just before she hit the ground. She was burning with fever. Her fingers were thin. Too thin. Her lips were cracked. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. Daniel lifted her gently and carried her inside, laying her on the couch. What the hell happened to you? He whispered, grabbing a blanket and covering her. She didn't answer. Her chest rose and fell with great effort. She was barely breathing. Daniel ran to the kitchen and poured a cup of clean water. He knelt beside her and held it to her lips. At first, nothing. Then, slowly she sipped. Her eyes fluttered open bright, glowing purple. It's okay, Daniel said softly. You're safe. She stared at him. Then her eyes rolled back, and she passed out again. Daniel worked fast. He turned up the heat, found a protein bar, and crushed it into tiny pieces. Bit by bit, he fed her what she could take. He wiped her face gently with a damp cloth. She didn't speak, didn't move, but her breathing became steadier. Who was she? Where had she come from? And why had she come to his door? By morning, the storm outside had stopped. The sky was dusty pink, and the sun peeked through the clouds. Daniel had barely slept, checking on her every hour. Around noon, her eyes opened again. She sat up suddenly, looking around in fear. Hey, easy, Daniel said, lifting his hands to show he meant no harm. You're safe. I found you at my door. She looked at the blanket, then at him. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Can you speak? He asked gently. She nodded slowly. Then, in a soft, broken voice, she said one word. Food. Daniel quickly brought her a bowl of soup and helped her hold it. She ate slowly, like every bite was a treasure. She looked up at him with big eyes, confused, tired, but thankful. My name's Daniel, he said. You got a name? She blinked, thinking hard. Ilari, she said at last, voice shaking. Ilari, Daniel repeated with a small smile. That's a nice name. She looked down, as if ashamed. Hours passed. Ilari still said very little. But Daniel noticed something strange when she moved. Parts of her skin seemed to glow softly under her collarbone. At first, he thought it was just the light. But when she got scared from a loud noise, the glow pulsed brighter. He pretended not to notice. She was already scared enough. That night, she slept on the couch again. Daniel gave her a clean blanket, a pillow, and some warm clothes he had stored too big for her. But better than rags. She whispered something before falling asleep. Daniel didn't catch all of it, but it sounded like, thank you. Just before dawn, Daniel was fixing the solar generator outside when something buzzed in the sky. He looked up. A black drone flew slowly over his house. No markings, no lights. Silent, except for the low hum. Then it stopped, right above his roof. Daniel narrowed his eyes. He had seen drones like that during his time in the military, stealth trackers. But who were they tracking? When he went back inside, Ilari was curled on the floor, not the couch, her eyes wide. Her body shaking. She pointed up with a trembling hand and whispered, They found me. Daniel's heart dropped, Who? He asked, but Ilari just closed her eyes. He didn't know what was happening yet. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just a hungry girl needing food. This was something much bigger. And now he was part of it. Daniel stood frozen at the window, staring at the silent drone above his house. Its black body hovered without sound, its red sensor blinking softly like a warning. Ilari was still on the floor, curled up tightly. She wasn't shivering from cold this time. She was terrified. Her glowing eyes locked onto Daniel's, and in a weak voice, she said, "Don't open the door. Ever again." Daniel quickly shut the metal blinds and locked them tight. He grabbed the old rifle from behind his shelf, not for hunting animals, but in case he ever got robbed. He never thought he'd need it for something like this. "What is that thing?" he asked, voice low. Ilari didn't answer. She just pressed her hands to her ears and whispered something in her language words Daniel couldn't understand, but he could feel her fear through them. Then she looked up and said in plain English, "They know I'm here." The drone stayed for 5 long minutes, then floated away, vanishing into the clouds. Daniel waited. "Okay," he said finally. "Start talking. Who's chasing you?" Ilari sat up slowly, her long silver hair falling over her face. She looked thinner than before, like the fear was eating her from the inside. She pointed at her own arm, where a faded mark glowed faintly under her skin, an ugly barcode. "I escaped from the labs," she whispered. "What labs?" "Biolabs. Sector 14. They took girls, tested, changed us." Daniel felt cold inside. He'd heard rumors about those places. Secret alien research centers. Some said they worked on hybrid species mixing alien genes with other things. Illegal things. "You're saying they did something to you?" he asked carefully. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm not full alien anymore. They made me something else." Daniel sat down across from her. "You could have died out there. Why come to me?" Ilari looked at the floor. "Because your house had light, warmth. It felt human." She touched her chest right over the glowing mark. "I don't know what I am anymore, but I know I don't want to be a weapon." Daniel stayed quiet for a while. Then he stood up, walked into the kitchen, and came back with more food, a warm piece of bread and a drink. "You're not a weapon in this house," he said. "You're just someone who needs help." She looked at the food, then at him. Her hand shook as she reached out. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, while Ilari slept again, Daniel sat on the porch with his old radio. He tried to contact the nearby security team, but the signal was jammed. Blocked. Not an accident. That drone had friends. And those friends didn't want anyone calling for help. He looked back at the house. Inside was a girl with powers she couldn't explain, running from people who wanted to use her. And somehow he was the only one standing between her and them. But something deep in Daniel's gut told him this was only the beginning. Daniel stood frozen at the window, staring at the silent drone above his house. Its black body hovered without sound, its red sensor blinking softly like a warning. Ilari was still on the floor, curled up tightly. She wasn't shivering from cold. This time, she was terrified. Her glowing eyes locked onto Daniel's, and in a weak voice she said, "Don't open the door. Ever again." Daniel quickly shut the metal blinds and locked them tight. He grabbed the old rifle from behind his shelf, not for hunting animals, but in case he ever got robbed. He never thought he'd need it for something like this. "What is that thing?" he asked, voice low. Ilari didn't answer. She just pressed her hands to her ears and whispered something in her language words Daniel couldn't understand, but he could feel her fear through them. Then she looked up and said in plain English, "They know I'm here." The drone stayed for 5 long minutes, then floated away, vanishing into the clouds. Daniel waited. "Okay," he said finally. "Start talking. Who's chasing you?" Ilari sat up slowly, her long silver hair falling over her face. She looked thinner than before, like the fear was eating her from the inside. She pointed at her own arm, where a faded mark glowed faintly under her skin, an ugly barcode. "I escaped from the labs," she whispered. "What labs?" "Biolabs. Sector 14, they took girls, tested, changed us." Daniel felt cold inside. He'd heard rumors about those places. Secret alien research centers. Some said they worked on hybrid species mixing alien genes with other things. Illegal things. "You're saying they did something to you?" he asked carefully. She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm not full alien anymore. They made me something else." Daniel sat down across from her. "You could have died out there. Why come to me?" Alori looked at the floor. "Because your house had light, warmth. It felt human." She touched her chest, right over the glowing. "Mark, I don't know what I am anymore. But I know I don't want to be a weapon." Daniel stayed quiet for a while. Then he stood up, walked into the kitchen, and came back with more food, a warm piece of bread and a drink. "You're not a weapon in this house," he said. "You're just someone who needs help." She looked at the food, then at him. Her hand shook as she reached out. "Thank you," she whispered. That night, while Alari slept again, Daniel sat on the porch with his old radio. He tried to contact the nearby security team, but the signal was jammed. Blocked. Not an accident. That drone had friends, and those friends didn't want anyone calling for help. He looked back at the house. Inside was a girl with power she couldn't explain, running from people who wanted to use her. And somehow he was the only one standing between her and them. But something deep in Daniel's gut told him this was only the beginning. The stars had vanished. Daniel stood at the window, staring into the pitch-black night. Not even moonlight touched the ground. The darkness outside looked wrong. Behind him, Alari paced the small living room like a ghost. She couldn't stop trembling. "They're close," she whispered. "I can feel them." Daniel had sealed every door, locked every window, covered every reflective surface. But Alari told him it wouldn't matter. "They don't use sight," she said. "They smell fear and power." He gripped the rifle tighter. "You still sure you want to do this?" he asked. Alari nodded, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. "I'm tired of running." Midnight. A sharp click echoed from the back wall. Daniel spun around. A piece of the metal wall shifted. A panel moved on its own. Lari gasped. "They're bypassing the structure. Not breaking in, merging through." Daniel didn't wait. He fired at the wall. Sparks flew, but no body, no blood. Only a strange black mist leaked through the cracks. It hissed like steam, and it moved like it was alive. "What is that?" he asked, stepping back. Alari whispered one word. "Hunters." From the mist, figures began to form, tall, smooth, featureless shapes. Their skin looked like shadows wearing armor. No faces. No eyes. One of them reached toward Alari. Daniel stepped between them and fired again. The bullet passed through. No effect. They didn't come to fight. They came to take. Alari screamed, not in fear, but in fury. Her hands lit up like twin suns. A wave of white light exploded outward, pushing the mist creatures back. They shrieked, soundless but sharp. The room shook. Daniel shielded his face as the walls vibrated with strange energy. His ears rang. His chest burned from the force, but he didn't fall. Alari stood glowing in the center of the chaos. Eyes wide, hair floating, skin pulsing like starlight. She was beautiful. She was terrifying. And she was done hiding. The figures hissed again, but began to pull back, melting into the mist, slipping through the cracks like shadows escaping dawn. Within seconds, they were gone. The room was silent again, but the damage remained. Walls cracked, furniture overturned. The front door half ripped from its hinges, and Alari was on her knees, gasping for air. Daniel rushed over. You okay? She nodded weakly. They know. I'm resisting. Daniel helped her up, gripping her shoulders. Then let them know this too next time. They won't find you alone. He helped her lie down on the couch, placed a cold cloth on her forehead. Her glowing skin slowly dimmed, like a fire dying. They won't stop, will they? He asked. No, she said softly. They'll bring stronger ones. Smarter ones. Next time, they'll come for both of us. Daniel looked at the broken wall, the scorched floor, the silence that felt too loud. And he knew she was right. This wasn't over. This was just the first knock on the door. The wind howled across the broken outpost. Daniel threw the last of the bags into the rover. Food, medical kit, weapons, maps. He didn't care where they went, only that they left now. Inside the house, the air still smelled like burnt metal and smoke. The wall hadn't been fully patched. The drone's attack had left marks deeper than just scratches on steel. Daniel rushed in. Ilari, come on, we have to go. She sat calmly on the floor, staring at the small fireplace. The flames danced quietly, like they didn't know monsters had just come through the wall last night. I'm not going, she said, without looking up. Daniel froze. What? I'm not leaving this place, she repeated. Not now, not again. You want to stay? After they almost dragged you out of here? She finally turned to him. Her voice was quiet, but steady. This is the first place I felt safe, where someone looked at me and didn't see a lab rat, or a weapon, or a thing to sell. She pointed to the couch, to the half-burnt mug of tea. That couch? It's more of a home than I've ever had. Daniel walked over, kneeling in front of her. You think I don't care? He said softly. You think I want to leave the first person I've actually trusted in years? Her eyes softened. But we're not ready. Ilari, if they come again stronger, they will, she said. Then we need to survive. She touched her chest gently, where the light once burned. They're not just hunting me anymore. Daniel, they're hunting us, because I bonded to you. He blinked. What? My power. When you touched me, when you didn't run from me, it linked. I don't fully understand it. But now I can feel you when you're scared. And I think they can too. Daniel sat back. So we're connected now? She nodded. You saved me. And now they see you as part of me. Silence filled the room. Daniel looked around at the cracked walls, the dusty bookshelves, the still warm fire. Maybe it wasn't safe anymore. But it was real. And maybe that's what they were fighting for, now not just escape, but existence. He stood and walked toward the window. The wind outside picked up again. Dust curled like snakes in the air. He turned back to her. If we stay, we'll need to fight. Ilari stood too. Her eyes glowed faintly again, but not from fear this time. From resolve. Then I'll fight. Together, they started rebuilding. Daniel rewired the defense grid. Ilari marked every corner of the house with symbols only she understood, alien runes meant to mask energy. Together, they worked as one. No more running. When night came, they didn't hide. They sat beside the fire again, quiet, tired, but not broken. Ilari leaned her head against Daniel's shoulder and whispered, If I die, I'd rather die with you than live in a cage. Daniel didn't answer with words. He just reached over and held her hand. It began with a sound, not a scream. Not an explosion, just a hum, low, slow, growing under the earth. Daniel woke with a jolt. His heart thumped fast, his hand already on his rifle. Outside, the sky had turned orange like fire trapped behind clouds. Then the hum turned into a song, metal, twisted, unnatural. Ilari stood in the center of the room, barefoot on the cold floor, her hair floating in the air like it was underwater. Her eyes glowed gold now, not purple. Daniel stepped toward her. Ilari? She didn't blink. They're here, she said softly. But this time, I'm ready. Above them, the sky cracked open. A massive black ship appeared, silent, smooth, shaped like a blade. No lights. No engines. It didn't fly. It floated. Like it owned gravity. Daniel's radio sparked. The screens shut off. Every device went dead. I'm in P. They're jamming us again, he muttered. But Ilari didn't flinch. She stepped outside. The dust didn't touch her. The cold didn't chill her. The sky seemed to part for her. Daniel followed. Stunned. In front of the house, a dozen dark figures dropped from the ship, tall, faceless, and fast. Weapons in hand. Daniel raised his gun, ready to fight. But Ilari lifted her hand. Don't, she said. And then everything changed. The first soldier charged. Ilari didn't move until he was 2 steps away. Then her body lit up like a falling star. A blast of white energy exploded from her chest, silent but massive. The ground cracked. The soldier was thrown back. No scream. No blood, just gone. The others paused. Ilari's feet rose slowly off the ground. She was floating, her arms spread. Her hair glowing silver, her skin shining like a living sun. I remember now, she said. What they did. What they took. What they couldn't break. The soldiers attacked all at once, but she didn't need to run. The light around her bent and curved, turning their weapons into smoke, their bodies into sparks. Daniel watched in awe. Not afraid. Not anymore. Because the girl he saved was no longer a victim. When it ended, the ship above made a strange noise like a wounded animal. Then it began to rise, retreating, fading into the clouds again. Ilari slowly returned to the ground, her feet touching the dirt. She turned toward Daniel, her glow fading, but her eyes still held power. I didn't know I could do that, she whispered. Daniel stepped forward, gently taking her arm. You didn't have to, he said. You just needed to believe it. She smiled this time, not in fear, but with peace. That night, the stars above them returned clear, bright, and free. And Ilari stood at the doorway of the house, looking up. Do you think they'll come again? She asked. Daniel nodded. Probably. Ilari looked at him, calm and certain. Then let them try. Asterisk, the battle was over. No more strange ships in the sky. No more faceless hunters, just silence. And stars. Daniel stood outside the small home, looking at the land he once thought he'd die on, alone, forgotten, unimportant. Now, it was different. Inside the house, Ilari was sweeping ashes into a small bowl. The cracks in the walls were still there, but now they were proof of survival. Daniel walked in and found her standing by the window. She wore soft clothes now, his clothes, loose and warm. Her silver hair was brushed neatly behind her shoulders, and her scars, once glowing and angry, had faded into soft lights like embers. Storm's really over this time, he said. She smiled without turning. I know, I can feel it. He stepped closer. So, what now? You stay here, or go back to your people? She turned and said something he never expected. I have no people, she whispered. But I have you. Daniel blinked. Me? Ilari nodded. You fed me when I was starving. You carried me when I fell. You didn't touch me with fear, but with kindness. No one has ever done that. Not family, not friends, no one. She stepped closer, her voice soft. I want to stay. Not because I have nowhere else to go, but because here, with you, I feel real. Daniel looked down, unsure what to say. He had always lived a quiet life, a lonely life. He wasn't a hero, but when he looked into her eyes, he didn't see a lab subject, or a creature, or an alien. He saw family. He held out his hand. Then stay. She took it, gently. And for the first time in her life, she felt safe holding someone. Weeks passed. They built a new fence, repaired the roof, painted the walls with soft colors. Ilari learned to cook human food badly at first. Daniel didn't complain. Sometimes she'd hum old songs from her planet. Sometimes Daniel would teach her how to fix machines. They laughed. They healed. One night, under a sky full of stars, Ilari lay beside the fire, her head resting on Daniel's lap. She looked up. "You still think I'm dangerous?" she asked with a playful smile. Daniel chuckled. "You melted a drone with your eyes," she smirked. "Fair." Then she grew quiet. Her eyes glowed faintly, but not from fear. "I was made to be a weapon," she whispered. "But I don't want to be that anymore. I want to grow flowers. I want to build things. I want to live like this." Daniel looked down at her and said, "Then do it. No one owns you now." Ilari's eyes filled with gentle tears. She reached up and touched his cheek. "You don't just make me feel free, Daniel. You make me feel wanted." He kissed her forehead. Not like a master, not like a hero, but like someone who finally found the missing piece of his own soul. And from that day on, the girl who was created to be used chose instead to be loved. And she called him the one word she thought she would never say again. Family.